Hello, Earthlings. This is Planet Mitch, and today is Wednesday, August 1st. For some reason, my show notes say the wrong date, so that startled me. This is episode number 2, entitled Rebirth. I am here today with Barry Andersson, who is somewhere out in the woods recording from his laptop somewhere. Say hi, Barry.
How's it going, Mitch?
It's going great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
We also have our co-host, Pamela Ann Berry, and I noticed after last week's show, which I listened to several times because it just made me laugh so much, that when I say Pamela Ann Berry, it sounds like Pamela and A-N-D Berry. Because I say it so fast, but it's really Pamela Ann, A-N-N, Berry, B-E-R-R-Y. So we've got Barry and Berry, and it just all gets really confusing. And
It's
Pamela's...
that whole
I think Anne
Pamela
should
and Berry
change
show.
her middle name.
Yeah, I need to change my middle name too,
Yeah.
so that it's just Mitchell.
Pamela, if you want to change your middle name, that would be great.
Just for you, of
You should just
course.
change your name legally to Planet Mitch.
That's... No! I've already done that.
Yeah, just that's what you write on your checks now.
Yeah, and they'll bounce royally high. Oh, mercy. Thank you guys for joining us, and you're both on a remote location today, which is kind of cool. Maybe I should walk outside and be remote too. What are we going to talk about today? Well, today we have a special guest, Patryk Kizny. He is from like 12 different projects and 30 different companies, I think. He's involved in DitoGear and another company, Looky Creative, and Iguana Mill, which we're going to talk about a little bit today. I have talked to Patryk a couple of times before. Once was actually live on a video call, which is recorded, and if you look in the show notes, I will give you a link to that old video so you can go back and listen to Patryk and I talking about astronomy, how he built his own observatory, time-lapse, motion design, software, and we went on and on and on. But I want to welcome Patryk Kizny to the show.
Hi. Hi, nice to hear you.
It's great to have you on
Greetings
board.
from Poland.
Yes, and you're remote too. Well, you're probably in
Yes,
your own
I'm
home.
remote. Absolutely remote. And out of this world sound and my voice.
See, you fit right in with the whole planet theme of the show, since you love astrophotography and all that external remote stuff.
Yeah, indeed.
We're going to
Thanks
talk.
for having me here.
It's a pleasure to have you, Patryk. We like chatting with you at any time, but you can't be on every week because we have to have other guests. The first thing, so we're gonna talk about the stuff with Patryk in a minute, but I wanted to get into a news story to start everything off, because this has just been bugging the kajibers out of me, and Barry, I forgot to send you a link. I showed it to Pamela just a few minutes ago. But there was a story that was posted by Den Lenny over the weekend on Facebook. And he had done a review of a couple of different lights, one of them including a light from a company called Rotolight. And after Den posted the video, a couple of days later, Vimeo took it down because Rotolight complained to Vimeo that it was violating their copyrights. And Den said, huh? Or I should say, huh? Like that. And it turns out that Rotolight jumped in on the Facebook conversation. And if you, I have a blog story that I did on it just a few days ago. If you go to the blog at planet5d.com, you can read the story, and of course I'll have the link in the show notes. But Rotolight actually piped in and started commenting on Den's post on Facebook and said that, quite frankly, they didn't really have a problem with the copyrights. They just didn't like his review. And they didn't think it was quote unquote fair. And it just bugs the living daylights out of me that a company would take the stance that a review, that they just didn't like the results and they didn't think it was fair. Barry just pinged me because he appears to have dropped. I'll try to get Barry back online while you guys discuss this problem.
Well, a few things have come out in the last couple hours. One, Rhodolite has put out an official statement this morning.
Did they? That's
Yes.
good. Because they actually, I'm sorry, they actually sent me a private message on Twitter asking me to keep my mouth quiet until the official statement came out. But they didn't tell me that it came out.
It just came out. But I think, honestly, overall, this is going to hurt Rhodolite in a negative manner just for how it came out. And here's a little quote from just the release. I mean, this is hot off the press right now. It says, Rhodolite welcomes and encourages independent reviews, editorial, and feedback from our customers on our product, and indeed go out of our way every week to provide products for test to numerous major industry publications. But that doesn't, obviously... It says, in this specific case, the video was not removed for copyright infringement reasons and has been widely reported. So they're actually denying the fact that they had it removed for copyright.
Well, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, unless they've got some pull with Vimeo, which is where the video was hosted, or I mean, why would Vimeo accept a vendor asking them to pull something unless it was an official DCMA or DMCA takedown due to copyrights?
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things going on. And of course, then they try to pull at the heartstrings, saying it's important to understand that this damage is not just hurting our business, but our working employees and their families.
Oh,
well,
got it.
Really?
Yeah, it's all about the money.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. This is bugging me. Because okay, when you're on the internet, when you see blog posts, but I mean, I even produce a couple things where it's sponsored by different companies, and you know, we put the company in good light, but in all fairness, we let these companies sponsor us because we like their product.
Right.
But I love seeing people who blog out there who said, you know what, I tried this product and this is my experience, so I'd rather use this product. That is the best part of free speech, is being able to share your experiences about different products. And if a company doesn't like what is said about them, instead of going about it the way Rhodolite went about it, they should say, oh, I'm sorry for your experience.
Right.
Tell me more about it so we can make our product better.
Right.
That's what should have happened.
And they should have gone to Den first privately and said, hey, can we do something differently and try to incorporate, maybe he didn't do something right. Maybe he wasn't using the light properly.
Exactly.
But you don't publicly just take the thing down and then go on Facebook and said, well, we didn't like it and we didn't think it was fair. Yeah,
if I saw the Vimeo review and then Rhodolite goes on there and said, oh, I'm so sorry, let's talk about this more because we want to make a product that people love. Help us help you, and let's work together. And people are going to respect that a whole lot more.
Right. That's for sure. It just makes them look so bad. It really does. Patrick, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I wasn't following that particular case, but it generally sounds very, very familiar to me, and I totally agree with what Pam said. And well, the internet is first of all, it's an open medium and it's democratic, and you need to realize that everything that is happening in the internet is already there, and you can't take it down like that and unnoticed. So
right.
Guys that decided to put it down obviously made a serious marketing or branding mistake. Because they didn't realize this is much worse than just having an unpleasing or unflattering review online.
yeah, they've gotten a lot more attention, and they have bloggers like me who republish the story to
Yeah,
spread it
the
even further.
attention. Yeah, but they already got attention, but you know, okay, it's up to you whether you want to have press or you want to have more press, even though you have bad press.
Right.
There are different strategies, and I
Right.
could also understand being, a little bit provocative to gather or gain more media exposure. But well, in this particular case, as I said, I didn't follow that closely, but I don't think it makes much sense to me. I wouldn't do anything like that. And
Oh.
with all the tools that you have nowadays for like following and like aggregating all discussions about your products happening everywhere, it's simply really easy to keep track on everything that is being said about you. I mean, there are amazing tools that allow you to just gather all information about your product in just one place and be able to respond to everything, to Twitter, Facebook, blog comments, everything from like in one software suite. This is incredible.
Right.
And so, I can't understand it because it should be dealt differently for the favor and advantage of the company. Totally agree.
Well, I'm reading through this press release, which, by the way, as we're talking now, was released about 12 minutes ago.
Wow.
They said, yeah, this is how hot off the press it is. We accept that we could have dealt with this better and avoided the issue through clear communications in the first instance, and we're already reviewing our process and policy on this matter to ensure this does not happen again. And then they went on to explain that there was a minor anomaly in the software calibration process, which affected this particular issue that this gentleman was having. But they're trying to backtrack, and they're trying to say they're sorry, and they're actually even donating a brand new light to him
Aww.
for use of this for his students in their workshops, and invited them to the studios and office to meet with the designers. So it looks like they're trying to make up for it.
Well, good.
If I was him, I would refuse it publicly.
Oh, interesting. Now, why is that?
I just think that anytime someone does something like that, it's like, in today's society, we believe that every time you just say, I'm sorry, that we have to accept it. And to me, it seems like a more egregious thing that, why, if they give him a free product and he starts, showing it to the students, that brings more money to them after they, were trying to kind of make it sound like he shouldn't have been saying negative things. I don't know. I just have a problem with, now if we throw gear and then he gets, they get free training off it as well. Just seems a little skeptical to me.
I agree.
Are you done?
There's a truck rolling by, so I muted myself. Sorry.
That's okay. Because I think we could beat them about the face and head quite a bit on this show. Because I'm not very fond of the tact either. And I'm not sure that I would have reacted like Barry did. But I think Barry makes a good point that maybe they should not just be giving product to get back in good stead. I think maybe they need to do something else, but I don't know what it is.
I think anytime they do damage like that, and then just a quick apology, and here I'll give you a piece of gear, seems A, insincere,
right,
and B, it seems out of line. If you're bothered by what they did in the first place, to me that's not enough to make up for it.
Right. Good point. I'm going to jump into another story real quickly, just in case people haven't heard it. The BlackMagic Pocket Cinema camera was supposed to be delivered the end of July, by the way. And there are shipments happening, according to a post that I just found by Hot Rod Cameras over in the BlackMagic Cinema forums. And it says from them, this is a note they sent out to their customers, and I'm going to read just an excerpt. Basically, they've done some digging, and as stated by BlackMagic, supposed to ship this month, they're not exactly going to meet their target date.
But is this a surprise? Because this is exactly what happened last year.
Right. But BlackMagic is saying they're going to ship pocket cameras this week. However, what Hot Rod Cameras has discovered is that the dealers that are going to get cameras will get one, and only one. And then it will be some time unknown after that when they start actually producing large quantities. So I heard there were 6,500 cameras, and I don't know if that number is accurate or not, but somebody posted that there was a backlog of 6,500, and dealers are only going to get one camera this week. That's, it's just a little deceiving. I think that BMC ought to say something a little bit more about that. It seems like we're bashing companies today.
And, well, I understand, the reason last time is that whole sensor issue that they were dealing with that they weren't aware of. And they had to go through the whole process and figure out which vendor that they were using that had the bad sensor putting into the cameras. And that took a while, which is understandable.
Right.
But, what's going on now, I think consumers deserve to know exactly what's going on. Especially when you're putting down that chunk of money for a nice camera.
And speaking of the 4K camera that they have, they also say that production is not likely to begin until 4 to 6 weeks from now.
Oh, wow.
Now, they said initially, if I recall correctly, they did not promise that the 4K camera would ship in July like they did the Pocket Cinema camera.
They said it was going to be shipping later.
Right. And so it still appears to be going to be later. Now, interestingly enough, on a side note, I also saw a blog post somewhere that said that it's actually not a full 4K, that it's actually 3,980 pixels or something. It's not actually. It was a 4K HD. No, that's not right. I don't remember the words properly. There's a smaller resolution than 4K, but they're still calling it 4K anyway. And
well, I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that there might be like two things and two resolutions that were meant or talked about, because originally, if you think about something like 4K, you mean 4096,
right?
Which is the power of 2, but when it comes to talking about the like conventional standards of video resolutions, I think that 4K has been rather double the HD width. It means less than 4,000 pixels. It's exactly 3,900 something, right? 40.
And I'm sorry.
Go ahead. If it's double HD, I think it's still 4K.
Well, I think the point that the person that was making was that some people will end up having to up-res the video because their customer is expecting 4096 resolution, and so they'll have to do a little up-res in order to make that happen, which is just an extra step that they weren't expecting to have to do. So it's not, I think, that they're claiming something that it isn't that isn't true. It's just that people are going to have to be aware that the 4K is going to have to, in certain cases, be up-resed to meet other people's requirements. All right.
So
Go ahead.
So here's my question. This is becoming a problem because people buy a product as soon as it's announced without the details, and when the details come out, they're bothered by the problem.
Very true.
Yeah.
This is very true. Much. Good point. Very good.
It's point. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, this is a non-issue to me. It's like, if you're going to plunk down money because you want to be, on the bleeding edge and you think it sounds good, that's great. But if all the details aren't out, then you can't be shocked later. If it meets the industry standards, but it's, a few pixels off from what you want, then just cancel your order. I don't understand that logic at all as to, somehow being bad on BlackMagic. And frankly, I give BlackMagic a whole lot of leeway in this because, Red's been doing this for years.
Yeah.
We promise stuff and 6 years go by and you're dragging your feet and everyone's like, but they're making it right. that's kind of the new thing. If you're not one of the major manufacturers, there is some slush in what they're doing. But I mean, the cameras they've already produced are, creating great images, and they're trying to be, kind of trailblazing. And, if it ships a few weeks late, I don't understand why BlackMagic's getting all this grief, and really, in the red community,
Oh yeah,
they
and
could just say whatever
red
they
takes
wanted.
forever, and not only with the red
Forever.
cameras, but you only get certain parts of the camera while you're still waiting for the other parts to come.
Yeah, and everybody worships them. So I literally don't understand the double standard here, and I think it's somewhat of a non-story, because I mean, BlackMagic's trying to explain, the first time around and get these out, but it's, if it stretches out to 8 more months, yeah, I think so. But if it's, a couple week delay, I don't see it as being, an end all issue. I think anybody that buys a camera off a manufacturer ship date and then books work for that camera the week it comes out, probably not very intelligent to begin with. You better have a backup camera ready.
Oh, Barry, you're so on point today.
Love it.
So true.
He has a good
It's
day
that
outside.
heat that he's out in.
Yeah, he's out there in the nice sun, soaking up the rays. All right, let's move on, if you don't mind, to Patryk Kizny.
I'm going to do next week's episode from Hawaii. So.
I'll go with you.
We'll all go with you. I don't want to be excluded from going to Hawaii for an episode. Now, if you're paying for it.
I interrupted your introduction to Patryk. My apologies.
No, but
He's
you
more
said
important
Hawaii.
than
Hawaii is much more important. Sorry, Patryk. I'm joking. Don't hang up.
But Patryk,
No,
I'm
I'm
excited about talking about you and your stuff that you have going on.
Oh, thank you very much.
Pamela's excited.
Can't wait to share everything.
So let's talk about Rebirth, which is the title of this episode. You had done a movie called The Chapel, and I actually looked at the statistics the other day and was stunned, pleasantly stunned. I don't mean it in a negative way. You've gotten over 1 million views on that movie in 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Congratulations on that. That's astounding.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, about 1 million was done in just about 3 months.
Really?
But I think we've talked about it. Yeah, I mean, it's not the matter of the movie; it's a matter of the luck. Just a little bit of luck and probably the right moment, because you can, get a very, very good movie, and there are many games in the internet which come unnoticed, and they are, really cool. And you have also some, like very lucky videos that go really viral. Even though the quality of, the artistic or technical quality is not really, such
Right.
Such a big thing, right? So, yeah.
Well, you neglected to say that your fame is because it was featured on Planet 5D, Patryk. There's my ego showing through.
No, frankly, what makes the numbers is not great community forums like Planet 5D or Cinema 5D or Vimeo or things we know very well, but by the mass wide reach portals and things like that. And this is a matter of luck, whether you get there and someone likes something like that and posts it and it starts spreading viral. So generally, it's out of the control. I mean, a few years ago, there was a lot of discussion around viral things, and all advertising agencies started offering viral marketing.
Right.
And I remember noticing one of them that really stood out, because they totally frankly claimed on their website and in their offers that there is no fucking way to make a viral video, because you have very, very little control over whether something goes viral or not.
Yep, that's for sure.
Oh, that's true.
I've tried many times.
Yeah, me too. And it's getting harder and harder because everything is becoming like over polluted and overcrowded, and it's simply more and more difficult to get any kind of attention, and people's attention span is definitely narrowing. So it's harder and harder. And I can see it very, very clearly from the experience of, like, I don't know, 3 years, probably 3 years of putting something up on Vimeo and just getting some response to that. 3 years ago, even though my things that I was putting on Vimeo were like barely some tests or like very simple short films done over the weekend, I had much better response rate comparing to what I get nowadays, even though my work is probably a little bit better today.
I agree. Were you going to say something, Pamela?
I was, and then he pretty much said what I was thinking. Because I agree, because over the last couple of years, myself, a lot of us in the artistic world, our work is improving, yet we're not getting the response that we used to.
It is a very difficult issue to deal with, especially for somebody who's trying to come in new. I mean, I have people send me stuff all the time and say, if you'll feature this, then I'll be famous. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but that's not always the way it works. Patryk, tell us a little bit about this project that you've been working on based on the chapel called Rebirth.
Yeah, okay. So essentially the chapel was shot in a very quick time, 3 years ago, actually almost 3 years ago, and it went viral pretty quickly, but not right away after I put it on Vimeo. It was like 3 months later. It got very famous, and just got this million, and that was cool. But the problem for me was that it was some kind of an unfinished project, and I wanted to complete it and do something more. And it took me like half a year to figure out what was that part that was missing. For those people who didn't watch the chapel, it's a short film shot mostly in time-lapse, experimenting with HDR and motion control. So mostly beautiful pictures, nicely edited to some music that was composed by Thomas Leonard, a composer from Austria. And essentially that's it. That was 3 minutes, and it was cool. But for me, the project was kind of unfinished. And after half a year, I realized that something that was missing there is obviously some kind of story, and first of all, some kind of human being. And that's how I started my work on Rebirth. And also, after the chapel got famous, I started being invited to many heritage documentation conferences. Because it turned out that the chapel is not only a cool film, but it's also an amazing case study of culture, of preservation, digital preservation and documentation of cultural heritage. That's what they call it. So a few conferences followed, and then I got into laser scanning industry and met some people. And actually, all these separate threads started to come together in my mind, and that's how I made the structure and then the script for the new film, for Rebirth.
Well, let me interrupt just for a second, if I may. For those people who are listening that haven't seen it, basically, I mean, you described it as a time lapse, but the subject is this old chapel building that has been abandoned for some decades, right? And it has holes in the ceiling, and it's architecturally significant, but it's not currently in use. So that's why
exactly.
People got involved in what you're saying about documenting the history.
What I like about what I'm seeing about Rebirth and what you do is you bring so much artistic values into seeing this, and it's inspiring to watch as a filmmaker.
Okay, but you mean the chapel or the trailer for Rebirth?
The trailer for Rebirth, your work of what you do with it.
Yeah. So essentially, the new film Rebirth is something that is much more refined, and well, I was like thinking about calling it the sequel to the Chapel, but in fact, I would rather say that the Chapel was like an introduction or a teaser for Rebirth. That's what I would say, and definitely this is much deeper and elaborate story. First of all, it's about 11 minutes. We already have the edit closed. It's exactly 11 minutes, and it's consisting of like 3 different scenes. And what's important about this film is that it's very experimental, because it makes use of whole variety of different technologies and techniques, and some of them have like no precedence in the history of visual arts. I refer mostly to visualization of laser scanning data here. So let me just go through the story very quickly. On a DigiDoc 2011, which is the Heritage Conservation Conference held in Scotland, I met 2 guys from a German and Austrian like scanning company, EKG Baukultur, and they actually, well, they liked my project, and we talked and hanged out for some time, and just had a good relationship, and they offered to actually come over and scan the building. They are located not very far away, so it was like a couple hundred of kilometers, and Jan just simply came over the weekend and we scanned the building, and that was actually the first step for shooting Rebirth. But at that point, I didn't have any like precise idea of what I want to do. The script was not written yet, and there was no plan on the dance. I mean, I had some ideas of introducing human being and dance into that space, but nothing was like prepared at that moment. So that's how it started. I got this scanning data, and actually that's how the like greatest challenge of this film started, because what I wanted to do is actually to convert engineering into art. Laser scanner is essentially a tool that scans the building using the laser beam. It can be used to scan buildings or smaller objects, or there are some versions for scanning like whole entire landscapes, sceneries. So these are called airborne scanners, and they are used from the aircrafts. Anyways, the scanner essentially gives you a whole bunch of points. Usually you get millions of points. And it's more or less like panoramic imaging, where you need to take multiple scans and then stitch them together to reconstruct the entire scene. And these are simply points. I mean, you get few millions or few billions of points in space, and that's it. And usually it's being used for documentation purposes, or for simply recreating the plans of buildings, or archiving them, or making analysis and things like that. And I thought it's a very cool medium, and I like to experiment with different visual techniques. And I thought that it would be amazing to turn it into art. And the main challenge was that there are some packages of software existing for processing point cloud data, but they are all done for different purposes. I mean, they are done for engineering, for reconstruction of plans and analysis and things like that, but they are not like written and prepared for visualizing point clouds. There are some animation features in some of these software packages, but the animation is not very close to the cinematic quality you would expect while watching a movie, right? So my main challenge and the goal I had was to find a way to visualize this data that way that it would seamlessly blend with the cinematic language. And that took me about 2 years already.
Wow.
So it was a long journey.
And the project...
Well, I'm excited to see it come to pass.
I love seeing people take something like an engineering... I mean, it seems like, like just engineering data and turning it into something that's artistic. The project is up on Kickstarter, and there, of course, is a link. But those of you listening, there is a link called planet5d.com/rebirth. Will get you over to the Kickstarter page, where you
It's
can.
Indiegogo. Sorry to interrupt you.
You are right. I'm staring right at it and not paying any attention. But it is Indiegogo, so you will get whatever funding comes through. So you don't necessarily have to meet your goal, but of course you want to meet your goal because that's what's going to help make the movie finished, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I mean,
go.
yeah, at the moment we are at the stage where the film is more or less done, roughly. I mean, we have the footage that is shot, we have the scanning, we have the visualizations, we have the score already written and have some mix, but we need to like finalize putting everything together, and most of all, we need to release a nice package. I mean, the film will be. I mean, initially I planned to go for the VOD option. And mainly lock the film for about 2 years for festivals. But from my recent experience, actually from all my experience, it turns out that it does not. It's not worth it simply to bet on festivals and just lock your films for about 2 years. Not being able to show it in the internet, especially if you have a good following base and the recognition. So and even if I took all the festivals together that would screen the film, I would get probably 1/10 of the audience I can get on the internet. And the problem with festivals is that they are extremely exclusive. Right. Meaning that they want rights to premiere, the material must not be screened before in the internet, made available to the public, etc., etc. So I did this mistake with one of the documentaries I did 2 years ago, and the result is that it did play on just a few festivals. It like took 2 years for the movie not being played almost at all, and finally, after all, I put it into the internet. It's on the Vimeo VOD right now, but the problem is that I'm already 2 years later. The project is not fresh anymore, and nobody cares. Right. So, from my experience, it's absolutely not worth it. And at the end of the day, I decided to release the film free of charge in the internet. In HD version, but the quality in the internet is always limited, and my work is all about details, so it shines when you get a really good copy. So the plan is to release it free of charge in the internet, but also we want to design a very, very nice limited edition package consisting of a Blu-ray version of this film, along with the digital file version if you wanted to play it on your computer. There's gonna be 5.1 sound. And a lot of goodies and a nicely designed package. So that's the plan, and that's where most of the money goes. The rest goes for covering some production costs and release.
Do you have any kind of an idea? I don't phrase that question very well. Do you think that it's an issue with films that are sort of already in the can, getting additional funding? I have this gut feeling, is what I really should say, that people would rather fund a movie that hasn't been shot or filmed yet than they do paying for post-production, because they sort of in their minds think that post-production is cheap and the vast majority of the money is needed up front. So if they look at your Indiegogo project, for example, and they see you say, well, it's, I just need this money to finish it. Do you think that's a psychological issue with readers?
Well, I considered that, and I gave it a lot of thought. And totally frankly, I think that if I ever do this kind of campaign in the future, I should start before I make the movie. I also have had very same gut feeling about it. I totally see what you mean. I try to be absolutely transparent and honest about what we're doing and where we are. The problem is that it's also holiday time, and people do care about different things than supporting some projects on Indiegogo that are actually not a new gadget, but a bit of art and culture.
Right.
So maybe that's not a good moment, but I'm still hoping for good. We have like 40 days more, and regardless of how the campaigns go, the film will be released. The only question is whether we will get some money for putting it to festivals and producing a nice package, and maybe covering some costs. And just paying artists, because the project. I mean, in Rebirth, there is a huge amount of work in that, and a lot of people were involved in this project absolutely free of charge, donating their time, work, expertise, equipment, and everything. And I thought it would be actually cool to, if the campaign was successful and made some money, simply to share it with all the artists who contributed to the project, and just get a few pennies to everyone. Anyways, but the other thing is that I totally think that it's better to think about funding the project before it's actually being done,
right?
Because it's about how you feel about it and about your creative process and everything. And I find it really difficult at the end, because I on one hand, especially if you think about the project that has lasted for 2 years already, it requires a lot of patience and dedication to finish things, and it's not, if you know what I mean, it's not that fresh anymore. I mean, if you do an over weekend production, that's cool, and it's always fresh. But when you're working on something for 2 years, it's hard to feel fresh about it, and that's one thing. You simply become tired, and you need more effort to finish something, and at the end you should actually get some reward and excitement putting it in front to the audience. And this is probably not the best moment for thinking about how to collect some additional money for the movie. So that's why I think, and this is my advice to everybody who's gonna ever do crowdfunding. Just like 2 pieces of advice. First, do it before you start actually doing the movie, and second is don't do it over the holidays. It doesn't make sense, probably.
Yeah. Barry, are you still there?
I think we might have lost him.
Oh, bummer. He's not there. Is he? The other reason I bring that up is because his daughter.
I'm here, by the way. My phone wasn't wanting to unmute.
Do you think that your movie that you did with Trin had a same kind of impact or issue with getting additional funding because you asked for funding for post-production as opposed to initial shooting?
In our case, I'm not totally positive. I think anytime you inject a child into the mix, there's a different dynamic. Some people will think that, some people might think that you're using it as a trick and the kid's not really working on it, so it's a storyline for you to get money. Some people worry like, well, that sounds like an ambitious project. I don't think a kid would actually, be able to stick with it, so I don't want to give money. So we went back and forth, and really we were, when we decided to go forward with the funding, it's because we were doing a few extra things that she really wanted to do because she got so involved in the project. We went out and she wanted to actually go through the whole process of working with some special effects people, and she wanted to go through the whole process of working with a composer as opposed to just, dropping in some music tracks. So there were some things outside of our original agreement with her in doing it, and because she was able to kind of stay with it for months and months and months on end at the level that she was, then I thought it was worth us attempting it. And obviously we were funded. So I don't know. I think right now the whole, crowdfunding, we get into a whole nother situation. But I think I don't always know if it's a deterrent in so much as it's how you, what's the reasoning for asking for funding at the end versus the beginning. I think it still comes down to the story. People have to connect with why? Why do they want to get on board? And in our case, they obviously they liked it. So Trin got her funding, and she's wrapping up the stuff with the composer now.
Well, I
yeah,
have an
I think
experience with that.
Okay.
I'm kind of editing a project with, his name's Kanan Flowers, and he's doing this hero punk, and he got about 60% filmed it, and then he decided to raise a Kickstarter campaign, and he's got a huge following, and everything is going great, but not very many people were donating to the Kickstarter. It was very stressful, and we had a lot of discussion about this. And at the very last hour, it got funded only because, thankfully, we were at Adobe Max and we were talking to people and we were excited. And people just had this idea like, oh, well, you don't really need the money. It's pretty much almost done. And like, no, this is all green screen. We have all the editing and the compositing and all this stuff to do. So we had to go back to the Kickstarter campaign, update videos explaining the whole process of why we needed to raise money, and eventually we did it, but it was very stressful, and it's that mindset of people, and I think it is, it's like, well, why didn't you ask for this up front? Why are you asking for it now? That's what we did honestly run into.
Yeah.
But I guess my question would be, does it answer the question you should have asked before, or does it stress what I was saying, that and how you guys asked for the money? It sounds like once you change the story to explain to people that this is what we're using it for, then they got behind you. So
Yes.
that's where I don't know if 80% get funded of the ones funded are because they're up front and only 20% are post. I just think it comes down to people, if you're asking them for money, they have to immediately realize what you're using it for, get behind you and like it. And if you don't communicate that well, they won't do it. And I don't think it matters at what point of the project you're going to fail if you don't do those items.
And that
totally agree.
That was a very long rabbit hole down the way that I didn't really want to go, but and I could keep that conversation going because there are a couple other projects that we want to talk about.
That's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or two or three.
It's a very interesting subject, and essentially one thing is crowdfunding and generally funding your projects, and the second thing is like marketing them and trying to find the right audience and trying to monetize them. And totally frankly, I'm like wrapping my head around that for quite a long time, looking for like chances, opportunities, and simply strategies to get the audience and get the way of existence in this cultural space, I would say. There are many options, but as you evolve, probably you start expecting something more than just getting a few hundred likes on Vimeo, YouTube, or Facebook, or wherever.
But how exciting it is that we have this technology and this sport and this internet to raise money in this fashion. I mean, that's amazing. That wasn't around several years ago. So this is honestly a good thing. And as artists, we're still trying to figure out how to best capture that audience and supporting us. And I'm glad that we have these opportunities to do so.
Yep.
Definitely. Okay, so maybe going back to Rebirth, because I just scratched the surface and started talking only about the first part, about the laser scanning and visualization, which is essentially a very, very important part of the movie, but this is just 1/3 of that. So to give you a little bit more details on the movie, it's very experimental, mostly because of this laser scanning visualization being used for the first time as a mean of expression. But also it's not only laser scanning, because as I mentioned, the film has like 3 different scenes. The first one is laser scanning visualization. The second one is shot mostly in time-lapse and a little bit of live action. And in fact, some of the footage that I used over there is like reused or reprocessed footage that I shot for the chapel. But also we have the third scene, which is essentially shooting the like live action dance scenes inside this beautiful church. Plus there is a little bit of surprise in between, but I'm not going to get into details of that because I want to leave it to the audience as a big surprise. But anyways, we also used motion capture technology and a little bit of photogrammetry, actually to capture the angels that were a part of a set design for another production. I thought that it would be actually an amazing idea to take these angels, which were physical sculptures done by a set designer for that production, and just have the 3D representation of them and just take it into my chapel. And that's where I use photogrammetry, which is essentially a very easy to understand but difficult to use technique, where you actually take a lot of pictures and reconstruct a 3D view basing on 3D data, basing on sophisticated algorithms and these 2D pictures that you get. So that's how I took physical angels from another production into the virtual set and environment of my point cloud laser scanning data church. Yeah, but this is about technical stuff, and there is a lot of things that are interesting here. But there is also a story and, in my opinion, very, very interesting narrative that at the end of the day came as a result of my cooperation with a filmmaker, Daniel Bean from USA. And I met Daniel like 3 years ago when I shot the chapel, and I was just scanning the internet and checking the responses, and everybody kept saying it's cool, wow, fantastic, amazing, and this kind of short things. But the only one exception was Daniel's post on his blog, which was, wow, really, really insightful and very sensitive and very deep. And that's how I met him. And when I was working on script for Rebirth, I actually had the structure in mind, had the entire idea of the film, but I didn't have the script. I mean, the actual text for the voiceovers and for the characters in the movie, because it's narrated. There are no actors appearing on the screen, but there is a off-screen narrative across first two scenes. And that's how I started working with Daniel, simply putting some tweets online that I'm just looking for some script writers to help me on that project. And Daniel just joined this project, and it was a fantastic collaboration. So I'm very pleased about it.
I love Daniel's quote where it says, writing is kind of like making soup. Sometimes it takes time for that flavor to settle in. I love that.
Oh, you're good. You've checked everything. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's also cool to look at your project, like if you look at the project into the past and just look at the history of the project and all small bits and bytes that you, I don't know, put on a blog or on Facebook or somewhere, it just gives you a nice like overview and history of everything that happened, and it's pretty cool. I like to look at my past work that way. It's cool to have all these kind of bytes.
The wonderful world of the internet and sharing things that you never would have seen before. Let's jump into another subject quickly, if we may. Tell us a little bit about Iguanamil, your time-lapse app. And
okay.
we lost Barry due to construction, by the way.
Oh, I hope he's good. I hope it's just his connection.
Yeah, well, he says it's the casino, that he's in the middle of nowhere and that trucks keep dropping by and the internet went down. So we may get him back, we may not. But Iguanamil.
Yeah, so actually 2 years ago, I thought, I got an iPad and I thought, what the hell, why can't I have a live view from my DSLR camera on my iPad? And I started checking the internet, and it turned out that there are no solutions for that. And this was really surprising to me. I thought it's a cool idea, and that would be a cool product. just did some research, and turned out it's not very easy. So that probably explains why it has not been done yet. And that's it. And I had this idea for quite some time, and actually, like half year later, so maybe about a year ago, I decided to put some work into this project and simply make it happen. And yeah, so like the ignition spark was the live view on the iPad. But as you already know, I've been quite into time lapse, and obviously live view is just one of the things you could do. But another cool thing that you can do is controlling your DSLR camera remotely through your iPad or iPhone devices. And that also is quite complicated and has not really been done when I did my research. Had not been done when I did my research 2 years ago. Until today, the situation is a little bit changing because there are some products slowly appearing that are trying to bridge that gap and deliver these kind of solutions. But anyway, that's how I started with the Iguana Mill and Iguana Labs app. And so just to give you a little bit of overview of what's that, this is a 3-level solution. Essentially, Iguana Labs is the application for the iOS, which allows you to shoot time-lapse and remotely control a DSLR camera if you want it. And the 3 levels are quite complementing each other. The first one is the fact that this is just the application for shooting time lapses using your iOS devices. So you grab your iPad, you grab your iPhone, and you simply shoot a good time lapse using the built-in camera. And this is something that has already been released, and it's implemented in this application. And well, as I discovered recently, there is about probably 100 other time-lapse applications in the App Store. Frankly, I tried some of them 1 or 2 years ago when I simply wanted to shoot some time lapses with my iOS devices, and I was totally disappointed. So I thought, okay, let's make a good app. I have the ambition for the Iguana Mill and the Iguana Labs app to be actually the first and the best application for shooting time lapses using iOS devices. And I think we are slowly getting there. We have just released the first version of the app, which gives you quite a lot of cool features, allowing you to shoot, I would say, squeeze every bit that is possible out of the iOS camera, because you have quite good exposure, focus, and white balance locks. So essentially, this can help you shoot time lapses that are almost like shot with the DSLR camera, which is kind of cool, because not always you want to take your tripod, motion control gear, and full car of equipment to shoot a bunch of time lapses. When you go on holidays and you're a time lapse addict, you probably want to be able to shoot something cool and not necessarily having all this gear with you. And that's where Iguana Labs app comes.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm sorry, it is awesome.
I love time-lapse. I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. And listening to you, I'm like, oh, what can I do a time-lapse of while I'm here at my parents'?
Yeah, so it's I think that the app is a quite good thing for both kind of audiences. I mean, while designing it, I was focusing on amateurs that has never shot any time lapses before and have no experience with DSLRs and just simply want to get a nice time lapse of their birthday party or whatever. And just slowly, hopefully, get into the time-lapse shooting. And the second audience that is very important are people like me who are time-lapse professionals with quite a lot of experience using DSLRs, motion control, sophisticated post-production workflows, and things like that. And that's where the second and third level actually comes. Because on the second level of the app, you can use the iOS devices to control your DSLR camera using shutter release port. So essentially, long story short, you turn your iPad into a very, very advanced intervalometer for controlling your DSLR. it's more advanced than the intervalometers that you can buy on Amazon, the regular ones, and these kind of intervalometers that most of time-lapsers use. You have quite a lot more features, but since still we are very limited in terms of what we can do by the interface, because the only way you connect to the camera with this on this level is simply triggering the shutter and triggering the focus signal. So you set everything in your camera, and then you use iPad or iPhone for triggering.
Well, I'd love to test this out some more. I actually help teach time-lapse at NAB every year, and I'd love to bring a product like this to show all the students, because I got everybody from the people who don't really use DSLRs to the professionals, and this would be, oh wow, I'm just thinking in my head of being able to show this to people at NAB.
Well, one of the things that I've done before is I've had these really basic intervalometers, and I got one to demo a couple of years ago, and I had to open the manual to figure out what the camera codes were and how to flip this particular switch to do this thing that way, and it was really a royal pain, and I gave up doing it because I couldn't figure it out. To have an interface like an iPad to be able to turn my camera on to do a time-lapse would be much better than the old way.
Well, there are some advantages and disadvantages of that, because in some situations you could probably, I can understand preferring the standard intervalometer because it has like long, everlasting battery and things like that. But on the other hand, there are some features that are cool about the Iguana Labs Plus, which is the simple trigger. These are, for example, GPS triggering, so you can do your drive laps using DSLR camera and trigger shots not every 1 second, but every 25 meters, which gives you a constant speed time lapse, even though you stop on crossings and things like that. You can also ramp up and down intervals and do bulb ramping and things like that. So there are some features that are not present in standard intervalometers, but that's just the second level. And the coolest thing that is still ahead of us, I mean, the first two levels are already released, and the hardware is already there, and you can buy it, and you can download the app from the App Store.
So, so just to be clear, that in order to connect to your camera, there is a wire that you have to buy, right?
Yeah. On the first level, you don't need any external hardware to shoot with your iOS devices, so you simply install the app on your iPhone or iPad and start shooting. If you want to control the DSLR in a simple way, that's the Plus version, you need to buy the special dongle, which is a small piece of electronics sitting on a cable and essentially translating audio signals from our application to shutter release signals of the camera. This is what you need to buy to use the app, but this is like $30. So it's affordable and allows you to do the thing.
Can you get an extension for that?
The extension?
I mean, I think it's fairly short, isn't it? I mean, what if you want your iPad 10 feet away from your camera?
Well, for sure you can get an extension. That's not a problem. You simply use
I don't want to be 10 feet away from my camera.
Well, when you're sitting back in your chair watching the time-lapse happen, come on, Pamela, you're not always standing right next to your camera.
I am always standing right next to my camera.
Anyway, what's the third level, Patryk?
Yeah, the third level is the cool thing that is still coming. And,
wait, this is already cool. What do you mean, the cool thing?
I know, right?
There's more?
Yeah, there is more. So this is, again, back to the basics. Live view on your iPad and full control. So this is essentially the most sophisticated way of controlling your DSLR you can imagine. You install the app. Imagine having access to all features of the camera on your iPad. This is what we are targeting. This is our goal. And essentially, what you need to do that is somehow connect the iPad to your camera using USB. And if you know iPads and iPhones and Apple policy a little bit, you already know that they are extremely restrictive in terms of limiting access to the serial port. So there is no way to simply connect USB device to iPad unless you hack it or unless you get through quite painful and costful process of getting approved as a contractor for Apple, and you buy their accessories to manufacture your components, and you go for large volumes and things like that. Very painful. So anyways, many products that are on the market already bypass this limitation simply by using Wi-Fi, and that's what we decided to do. So the architecture of the solution is as follows. You get your DSLR camera, then you connect the Iguana Cube, which is let's say the brain, the small server that hooks onto your the hot plug, I mean the hot shoe of the camera, where you normally attach flash. This is where you install it, and you connect it to the camera using the USB cable. And it has the Wi-Fi built in. So essentially, it acts as a server for your iPad. So it grabs all the data from the camera, it controls all settings in the camera, and it sends all this information wirelessly to your iPad. And at the moment, we are at the stage where we already have working hardware. We have some prototypes. We are able to shoot basic time lapses. We get a live view on the iPad. And we're simply thinking about getting the smallest amount of features we want to put to the market, finalizing them, testing them, and just making it available. I think it's going to take a few more months until we're quite there, and we don't want to release something that is like unfinished and buggy, because this is the worst thing that could happen. So we don't want to rush it. We want to release a good product. And what's promising about it is that you actually do get quite a good live view on your iPad. In case of Nikon cameras, when you are within a good Wi-Fi range, you get almost like 24, 25 frames per second full HD live view. This is quite surprising for me, because we were expecting like half of that. And in terms of Canon cameras, you get lower frame rates. It's like 15 frames per second. 10 to 15, but it's still sufficient to like frame your shot and adjust the focus and things like that, and just trigger the camera, change the settings. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. And our goal is to make it a like remote control application, so that you can change all settings, and we already have that implemented. You can change ISO, change shutter speed, and things like that. You basically have access to most of the features that cameras offer. We will try to get like a minimum that is consistent and common across multiple of cameras, just for the compatibility, for the sake of compatibility, and just not putting too much and dealing with incompatibility problems later. And that's what we will be putting in the first version. And also we focus on shooting time-lapse. And the coolest thing about it is that this is actually my dream came true. Yes, whenever I shot time lapses, the quickest workflow to see something good on a screen is to shot raw images for onlines and shoot JPEGs parallelly for quick previews, and then you offload the data of the card, put it into QuickTime, and you simply create a proxy or preview offline files pretty quickly that allow you to watch your time lapse. So anyways, this is not an instant solution. And the cool thing about Iguana Labs is that you will be actually able to see the preview of your time lapse as the camera keeps shooting, because we download all the frames on the fly. And the app is essentially putting together a time-lapse for you as the camera shoots.
Really?
So imagine sitting next to a beautiful sunset on a lake and being able and shooting the time-lapse, and already being able to see this time-lapse, the last, for example, 3 hours that you spent, already on your iPad as the camera is still shooting another 3 hours.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. There is an asterisk mark next to that.
Of course.
Because obviously we are quite limited by technology and by the data rates and things like that, and all the technical limitations that are not dependent on our application, but actually they come from hardware. So we need time to download this data, and this is possible when you're shooting like one frame every 5 or 10 or 15 seconds. But if you want to shoot like continuously one shot after another, there is no time to download data from the camera. So essentially, this feature will be disabled.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now, you said limitations of technology, but I almost have to disagree with you because you're using technology to enhance us as artists in every aspect of filmmaking and time-lapse and everything. And I just want to say that I'm very excited to hear you do that with technology of enhancing us as artists, and thank you for that.
Thank you for saying that. Well, everybody deserves better tools to make better art, to change the world.
That's awesome.
Yeah, let me go through maybe the most positive aspect of working on the chapel and Rebirth. And this is probably my next TED Talk or something like that, or a big speech on some event. But I can already share that with you. Actually, like I did a TED Talk like 2 years ago about Rebirth and about art and technology for heritage preservation. And it was like inspiring talk. But right now I think I have much better subject because I already have a good case study showing that art and technology can actually transform reality. After I shot the chapel, it raised the awareness of the place, absolutely. I mean, the temple was absolutely abandoned and nobody knew about it, and it was not visited at all. It was locked and forgotten in some small village. After the chapel went online, there were like hundreds of tourists and photographers and urban explorers coming to that place to see this building in reality, take pictures, shoot weddings, and all this kind of stuff. And it already made some change. But the coolest thing is that it raised awareness of the building, of the case. And one of the outcomes was that, like probably a year ago, an independent foundation was actually organized and founded. And one of their main goals was to try to preserve that church. And the cool thing is that, like probably a week ago or something, they have already acquired the building from the local municipality. And this is a green light to preserving that place.
That's fantastic.
And yeah, this is fantastic because, you know, all the pain was, you know, coming mainly from the situation where the local municipality had absolutely no interest to preserving that place and spending money on that, because it's obviously better for politics to build a new soccer field for children or build a new school or repair holes in the road, because they will get reelected the next time.
Right.
And, you know, just saving an amazing piece of architecture is not a very, like, it's not a thing that is worth attention.
Yeah, it won't get you reelected.
Long story short, it won't get you reelected. So even you know, the situation was that difficult that I was their enemy, actually, because of the chapel. Some people started coming there and making troubles, and the place is dangerous, and you know, things like that. And also I would say, upper authorities started begging the local guys to take care of the building and things like that. So I was the enemy. Yeah, totally, absolutely. And this is another story for another podcast, because shooting dance scenes for Rebirth was absolutely, frankly, the worst shoot of my life. But I'm not going to get into details here. So the good news is that the foundation is already, you know, quite well established. They've been around for a year, and they have got a lot of paperwork done and a lot of negotiations, and they have already acquired the building, which puts green light and a chance to preserve it. And probably a next crowdfunding campaign will be to raise funds for repairing the roof and protecting the building. And I really hope that Rebirth will be the next like attention bringing factor to like making things louder and spread more virally. And I just hope that more and more people will know about it, and it will turn attention of people. And at the end of the day, I hope it will help preserve that place. So I'm absolutely trying to support this thing from the very beginning as an artist, because I made my mind and decided that no, I'm not going to make a foundation, I'm not going to talk to politics, and I'm not going to spend my life trying to save this building, doing all paperwork and fundraising. I'm an artist, so I'm doing the film, and through my films, I'm trying to support the case as much as possible, and it seems to work. And this is probably the best reward for all the work that I and all the team put into these 2 films.
That really adds to the story. That's fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank
Absolutely.
you. Well, the moment for congratulations will actually be when the roof will be repaired and the building will be saved. So there is still a lot of work ahead of us.
Yes.
And that's why I need exposure for Rebirth, and I hope it will go as viral as the first film.
Well, best of luck to you, Patryk, and to the entire project, actually.
Thank you. We need that.
I want to... We've been jibber-jabbering for an hour and 15 minutes now, so we're going to have to kind of wrap this up before we totally lose every listener that we ever had. No, just kidding. But I do really appreciate you coming on and telling us about what you've been working on, and there's so much else to probably get into. You're a busy guy and faceted and fascinating. See, I combine words way too often. So we're just really thrilled to have you on. But next week, we actually have a guest lined up, and that's going to be Craig Blair from Canon Rumors. So we're going to talk some gear and some rumors and some potential new gear.
Oh, and I never get excited about talking about gear ever. No.
Well, that's good, because
that's actually what makes people excited.
Art makes people excited too. Just look what you've done.
Yeah, definitely.
And I apologize for losing Barry, but that's his problem for being in a casino, I guess. I don't even know where he is. He just said he was in a casino.
Well, Patryk, I've already tweeted and Facebooked throughout this conversation on your project, because that's how excited I am about it, and I'm excited to keep promoting it.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And what can I say? Well, we just need that help to get the thing out and just bring as much attention as possible. This is the most needed thing. The money is, I would say, secondary thing, and it's a tool for making things happen. But mostly, we need interest, we need attention, and we need to just get the widest audience possible. So that's very helpful, and thank you so much.
And as a reminder for those people, I did set up a special link. If you go to planet5d.com/rebirth, you'll get straight to Patryk's Indiegogo campaign, and you can donate right there. Also, Iguana Lapse is over on iguanamill.com.
or Iguana Labs will redirect you.
Okay. And you can pick up that application right now in the iOS App Store. And I have been playing with it for the last day, and I like it.
Oh man, you make
right
magic! I already see a huge peak here. It's like 1,000 downloads in the last minute.
Yeah.
You make magic.
Yeah, right. Everybody knows this isn't live, Patryk. Come on. Oh, you're a funny man. So we do appreciate you being on the show, and I hope everybody tunes in next week for another exciting episode number 3 coming up. we will definitely have Barry back, and Pamela Ann Berry. See, it sounds like and.
I love it.
If
thank you very much. Pleasure is all mine.
If you guys have any questions or suggestions, go ahead and send them over to me. You can reach me at planet5d.com/contact if you're on the web, or practically anything at planet5d.com as an email will get to me. And if you want to sponsor our show, call Pamela because she'll get you all signed up. And,
absolutely.
Are there any other websites, Patryk, that we didn't mention that you want to note so people come visit you?
I think
you on Facebook
for
or
now,
Twitter?
supporting the campaign and checking the app is sufficient. I have dozens of websites online, and this is a problem for me because I don't know where to send all the people. Probably I.
I have a good solution for you. If you
Tell
go,
me.
There's a
The
website.
Planet 5D.
No, that is an excellent solution, and I appreciate the suggestion, but that's not the answer. There's a website called about.me, M-E. If you go to about.me/planetmitch, for example, you can see that there's a central place for all of my links like Facebook and Twitter and blogs and all sorts of stuff. And I actually start sending people there because that way they can get to everything. So it's one central location, and it's free if you want to use it. Okay.
Thank you very much for this suggestion. I've already been using it was something else, but very similar. I dropped that. It didn't solve the thing because it was an additional website to all of the stuff. So I need to make my life simpler.
Yeah, well, there is that. PatrykKizny.com, right?
Kizny.com, yeah.
Kizny.com.
KIZNY.com. This is
Right.
my personal website, and all of the work is there. Obviously, Facebook/Kizny and Twitter/Patryk Kizny. If you Google my name, you'll find everything.
And that's exactly what Pamela did. All right.
Of course.
Patryk, Pamela, thank you very
Cheers.
much for being on the show. Tune in again next week. We appreciate everybody listening. And on behalf of Barry and Pamela, this is Planet Mitch saying over and out.
I think we need to do a little more all-weather testing. We've had a couple of cardiac arrests down here, too. We got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again.
That was definitely an e-ticket.
Roger, 0J, and I feel fine.
Returning him safely to the Earth.